Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our FemCity Midwest meeting here this evening. We have invited Heather Gwaltney to come and speak to us tonight about using mindfulness meditation to connect with our authenticity as women. So I'm so excited for this topic. I feel like meditation and mindfulness are two words that we've heard a lot. And I know for me in the last year, I've just kind of started to gain an understanding of what really like meditation is and how I can use it, and started to try to implement it into my routine. So I'm so excited to have Heather here to talk to us. I met Heather through FemCity probably close to a year ago now. And we had one of those coffee chats where you just feel like you could talk to the person for hours and hours and hours. I instantly connected to her energy. She shared her book with me, Be Kind and Take No Shit, and I instantly had to purchase it. The cover grabbed me immediately, and knowing her as a human. And so I was honored and very excited that she was open to coming to speak to our collective. I feel like she has so much knowledge to share and is just a great person inside and out. So thank you, Heather. And I will turn it over to you to introduce yourself further if you'd like to here at the beginning, and dive into speaking to us.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. And you and I also talked about you putting this on the FemCity Facebook group.
Yeah.
So you're going to be tagging me. I live in DC, but you'll be tagging me. So if any of the Midwest Femmes have questions, feel free to post them on the Facebook thread, and happy to answer them.
Awesome. I love it.
Okay. All right. So I'll start with a little bit about who I am. I am a femme, and I'm in the DC metro area. What I do is really around professional wellness. And what that looks like is going into companies and doing one-on-one coaching around mindfulness meditation. Also integrating mindfulness meditation into organizational consulting, like how to make the organization healthy from the inside out, starting with mindfulness meditation. And then I also do communications as well. So that's my professional stick. And let's see, I've been in the private, nonprofit, education sectors for about 25 years. And I just started a class at George Mason University, which is a live webinar on mindful leadership. And we're doing another new class. It's an advanced class, mindful leadership, but we talk about social wellness, impact, and metrics. So that's pretty exciting because I want to bring in the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit into organizations. The reason I do this is I care a lot about people, and I've been in the corporate world for so long, and corporate life, the workforce, it tends to be dysfunctional and difficult, particularly for women. And mindfulness meditation has helped me as a coping mechanism. I've been practicing for 20 years and was just certified as a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I'm in love with it. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think it's amazing. I really do. And you become healthier, happier, more effective from the inside out. And it's such this like subtle practice. People don't really, it's counterculture. It's something, we're not programmed to do this kind of thing. It's kind of weird. When I first did it, it was uncomfortable. I was like, why am I doing this? I don't really understand it, but why not just give it a try? And so it was this awkward thing that I did every once in a while. And then now I do a half hour every single day. I either do energy work or I meditate. So total believer. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what it is to be an authentic female. So Hannah, if you think about an authentic female, what words or traits come to your mind?
Yeah, for sure. So when I think about an authentic female, I suppose I think about me and my most, form of authenticity. And so I think about leadership, and I think about kindness, and I think about how I speak to others with like a caring voice. And I think about my probably like the voice, I guess a lot about the voice that I have and the way that I use that, and not being afraid to like step up to the plate with it.
Very nice. And when you and I first spoke, you had mentioned something about work and how you redid your process or your system around work so that it would be authentic to you, and that gave you so much better results.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I think that is very powerful, and I hope to do some more work with you around that, because it's about creating a new blueprint for success for women.
Yeah.
Okay. So
absolutely.
We've talked a little bit about what authenticity might mean to us. And it's good for people watching the video to think about for themselves. What does it mean for me as a woman to be authentic? What does that look like? Just try to connect with some of those words and feelings and so forth. So here's the problem. And this is why the mindfulness meditation and the authenticity piece is so important, because women tend to assimilate to a male professional infrastructure. Okay. So when we are assimilating to survive, we are being someone we are not. We are trying to be like a man because that's what we see. Those are models of behavior, and it's artificial. So if people are in a corporate environment, they may see some women leaders that seem like men, but it seems even more strange because they're not. Like there's something artificial happening that just, is not quite right. And they might be miserable, and then you might be kind of uncomfortable working with them, right? And but that's what they've thought that they've had to be in order to, be promoted, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to share some slides with you and some data.
That reminds me, Heather, of I just read the book Wolf Pack by Abby Wambach. And at the beginning of it, she talks about how she was sitting in a boardroom where she'd been asked to present for a company on leadership. And one of the guys who was in the boardroom asked her, Abby, I just want to make sure, is your presentation going to apply to the men at our company as well? And she said to him, that's a great question, as long as you've asked every single man who has ever spoke to your company if their presentation will apply to the women in the room as well. And that was like that I felt like that aligns a lot with what you're saying there, of like, we're really used to taking in this information and seeing men in these roles, and then us having to adapt to, make it work for us as women. And it's not really set up to be vice versa, where we get a lot of women good role models in those roles for us.
Yeah. And another example that's very similar to what you described is I was having a conversation with a VP of operations at this company that I recently worked for. And he said, oh, my son, he's so uncomfortable talking to women. He's so afraid of saying the wrong thing, with all this feminist stuff. And I was thinking, how do you think women have felt for hundreds of years, trying to like keep our emotions on the down low, like literally divorce ourselves from our feelings and try to, it's so, look, if men have to adapt their behavior to be respectful of women, then, good, because it's about time. So anyway, I'm not a man hater at all. It's just, we're in a situation where we're not in balance. And that's the problem. We're out of balance. And because 51% of the population is women, it's really important that we are in our authentic power, because the world has so many problems, and we are stronger if we're working together, men and women, at our highest potential. That's the only way we're going to solve the world's problems. Okay, so let's take a look at some numbers here. If we look at the venture capital world, entrepreneurs, people who are starting their own companies, only 2.2% of that funding goes to women. Okay, so it's staggering, it's scary, it's extreme. And then if you move to the middle section here, There are more women in C-level positions. C-level positions are CFO, CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, COO, Chief Operating Officer. So a fourth of those positions are held by women. But if you go to the CEO level, it drops down to 6%. And if you are a Latina, that is 1%. It's below 1%. Okay. And then when we move over to the media, people that are producing everything we're watching on TV, movies, all of that, 4 to 13% of those directors are women. So I'm curious, Hannah, does anything come to your mind, like the implications of this, of any one of those?
Yeah, I mean, really all of them. I mean, you think about female entrepreneurs with venture capital funding and just the, I know I've read a lot about the history of women being able to, get even just bank accounts and be able to build that relationship. And then, the struggles that we've had there. And then now if only 2.2% of venture capital funding is going towards women, I'm thinking about then the type of companies that are out there and the ideas that are sitting on the sidelines, because that more than 2.2% of women are having some entrepreneurial thoughts and have great ideas. And so it's like, man, you wish that more funding was going out there so that we could have some more companies that are ran by women, and just the positive impact that would have on and that kind of goes with the C-level positions as well. And then as far as the media directors, you think about the stuff that we want our kids watching and that we want our girls to see, and that we want people to, I think we all learn so much from what we watch on TV and the movies that we watch. And if more women were directing those and we're giving off what we want what we want women to, how we want women to be seen, I think that would be huge impact as well.
Right. Yeah. So all of those are good points. I'm in the process, research and development of a startup of my own, and I'm taking a look at this venture capital angel investing portion of developing the business. And I have not been groomed for this. So there is a huge learning curve. And that is very prohibitive for women because we are not groomed for this, unless you have an MBA, which is something I actually think would be helpful at this point. But yeah, so there's a roadblock there. And then the media piece, if you watch a lot of shows, it's getting, there's more stuff being developed and directed by women. But if you watch a lot of it, the main characters are men, white men. They can be very unattractive and old, but the females are young and attractive and more sexualized. And essentially, a lot of what I see is the fantasy of a man. So you're getting all of this information of the fantasy of men. And so women, there's this expectation that women will be a certain way and look a certain way and be over sexualized, et cetera, et cetera. So it's this unrealistic perception and expectation of women because the men are writing about their fantasies. So when you watch television and movies, just look out and see what you notice there. It's interesting. Okay, let's move on here. All right. So when we talk about the media, this woman looks like she's from the 50s, whatever, but that is still ingrained in us, right? I know I would walk down the hall, and if I was just having an okay day, the sales manager would say, "Smile," and I would say, "Excuse me, did I ask you to smile? Like, where does that even come from? Is it my responsibility to make you happy? Is that what you're telling me right now?" So you hear that. Men don't like it when you cry. Women are too emotional, and how that affected me in a corporate environment is I just felt like I really had to turn my emotions off. And I thought that somehow emotions would get in the way of me having good judgment. And I think that is the message that comes across. Like, I am there to keep it light, make people feel good, be nice, stay under the radar, don't rock the boat, don't get too emotional about stuff. Yet anger is something that men feel comfortable expressing in a work setting, and that is an emotion too, but that's acceptable. But the others, like the crying and everything else, is not. So these are some of the messages that we're getting. So in the professional context, what happens is that women often shut down and they forget who they are. What I think, and this is something that I talk about in my book, is that sensitivity and our feelings are actually our superpower. Okay, and when we talk about leadership, I talk about this in the mindful leadership class, is that women tend to naturally have a higher EQ, the emotional intelligence, and the people skills. And that is incredibly, incredibly important as a leader to have those. We just need to be more confident about our skills. That's what it's like. The skill levels are the same between men and women. We just lack confidence. But we typically have the higher EQ. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about emotions too. So the sensitivity, our feelings, those are indicators and motivators, right? So they serve a purpose, and we need to pay attention to them because they give us information. When we are reacting to situations too quickly, trying to be something we're not, we lose touch with those feelings and we disregard them. All right, so where does mindfulness meditation come into all of this? Let me first say what it is. I'll get into this a little more later as well. So meditation, if you're just to take that word by itself, it's when you refocus your attention over and over again on what's called an anchor. All right. And in mindfulness, that anchor is breathing. Like sometimes in different types of meditation, you might have a mantra, like a saying that you say over and over and over again. You've heard Om, that saying. In mindfulness, it's the breath. And the other part of mindfulness is when you hold your present experience with kind awareness. So you accept whatever it is your experiences in that moment, and you hold it with kind awareness. And this is this is helpful to us, especially when we may take on other people's problems, like in codependency or healer type of situations. So practicing the mindfulness meditation, it slows us down so we can see what belongs to someone else versus what belongs to us. And then we can watch our reactions to something. So before physically or verbally reacting to someone, you slow it down so you can respond in a wiser, more compassionate way. So let's talk a little bit. Okay, breathing. We talked about breathing is the anchor, right? So breathing is very natural. We have to breathe in order to survive. So that means that meditation is accessible to us at all times. It's just remembering to focus. You forget, you remember. You forget, you remember. And meditation is not something that you have to do overseas as a monk in a temple somewhere. You can sit in a chair and just focus on your breathing. You can walk, you can stand, you can lie down, and you can also do it in the middle of an activity, just focusing on your breathing. Very, very accessible. I can go on about the health benefits of it, but we'll skip that piece for now. Oh, and then also with the breath, if you're able to, it's better to breathe in and out of your nose because it slows you down even more. And you have these microscopic nose hairs, not the gnarly ones that you have to trim as you get older. But you have these tiny little microscopic nose hairs, and they filter particles from the air. On average, when you're breathing through your nose, it filters 20 billion particles. And it slows the air down more, so the air has more time to go reach the lower lungs and get more oxygen into your body. And so it slows down your respiratory system more. So filters the particles, slows down the respiratory system more. Okay, so we got the breathing part. Okay, so in mindfulness, we talk about the two wings of a bird, the kindness and the awareness. Some people use the terms compassion and wisdom, right? Heart, head, that sort of thing. When people are heavy on the kindness part and they're not as aware, examples of that might be feeling like a victim or going down a rabbit hole. If you're not practicing awareness at the same time, if you're heavy on the awareness side, but not balanced with the kindness, you might be in a place of judgment or criticism. So those are signs that you're a little bit out of balance when you're holding an experience. And another thing to think about is our programming is very much about command and control. Control the situation, control ourselves, control our feelings, control the outcome. You know, in business, you set a goal, you set a benchmark, you implement, then you measure your success and did you meet your goal and what are the metrics and yada, yada, yada. So this is very counterculture. It's opposite of what we've been taught to do. It's really about being present. Another tendency for people to do is to fixate, worry about how they failed in the past or what has happened in the past, or they worry about planning for the future. This is about being very present so that when you're in an experience, you may have the worry of the past or the future, and you sit with that worry. You say, I am worried, but this is what worried feels like. Where do I feel that in my body right now? And you breathe in and out, and you may get a body sensation or a feeling or a repetitive thought, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's happening. That's interesting. So you sit with this open curiosity, because you react to things because you're supposed to learn from your reaction. It's always information. It's just about learning, always. And the stronger you react to a situation, the more information there is for you, especially if it makes you really uncomfortable. Okay, we talked about how accessible meditation is. It's very much about meeting yourself where you are. So meditation is not about being perfect at meditating or reaching nirvana or being enlightened. It has nothing to do with that. It's a practice. It's something that you practice, and you can gain mastery. Like, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I can't sit and be quiet. I can't do it. My mind races. And what I say is that, yes, your mind races. Okay, so your mind races. That happens to everyone. Even I've been meditating for over 20 years. That still happens to me. So some days you have good days. Some days you have bad days. Some days you can be more peaceful and still, and other days not. Some days you can sit for 5 minutes. Some days you can't. That means that you can, while you're driving, focus on your breathing. it'll help with road rage. Trust me, I know, because I've commuted a lot in my lifetime, and literally it really, really helps. And if you have a newborn and you're holding your baby, just focus on your breathing while you're holding your baby. So you can focus on your breathing anytime doing anything. All right, Hannah. So we're gonna practice. I'm gonna take you through a guided meditation. Everybody who watches this, feel free to join in. And all right. So Hannah, I invite you to get comfortable in your seated position and close your eyes if that is comfortable for you. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can open them just slightly with a downward gaze. Okay. If you're able to, put your feet flat on the ground and your hands flat on your lap. They can be face down or face up, whichever is more comfortable for you. And I invite you to take 3 slow, deep breaths and see if you can focus on your breathing for those 3 breaths. Now I invite you to rub your feet on the ground and see if you can feel anything on your feet. You might feel tingling or warmth, or they might be cold. Then move up to your kneecaps and see if you can relax them. Move up to your hips and feel the weight of your body being supported by your chair. Engage your stomach muscles just slightly so that your lower back is supported and you're sitting up straight. See if you can let your shoulders fall. Create more space between your shoulders and your ears. And breathe. Relax your jaw, your tongue, and the space between your eyes. What do you notice? Perhaps you hear thunderstorm outside, an air conditioner, tingling in your hands or your feet. Just see what's there. Take 3 more long, deep breaths and open your eyes when you're ready. Okay, Hannah. So what is one thing you noticed?
Yeah, I noticed I almost got like disoriented. Like I got so relaxed that I could kind of like feel like I felt like the space between my eyes was really big, which sounds so strange, but I feel like there's so much space between my eyes. And then as you were saying, like at the end when you were saying things like that you notice, and then when you said like your hands and your feet tingling, like I definitely felt that as well. And then as you were like working your way up through the body to like relax different parts of the body, like every time I would relax something, like from there down, I would feel tingling. And then like when I'd move up to my waist, and then from there down, I would feel tingling as I like relaxed that. That was great.
That is really cool. So what you described is it's cool and it's natural. And what it tells me is that you have some pretty good body awareness because you were picking up on sensations and feeling things. So that's really important. What mindfulness meditation is about is being connected and observing and witnessing, right? So rather than criticizing and controlling, we witness with a sense of openness and curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I would encourage anyone who's watching this video, if you did not actively participate in this, rewind and go back and actively participate in it, because that was great. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a 10-minute audio guided meditation on my website, and there are tons of apps out there. Some people, including myself, I prefer to meditate in silence. I don't like guided meditations. At the same time, I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm not a big talker. So, and I get overstimulated easily. So when people talk, I just start listening to them, and then whatever. But so you can do this in silence, guided. There are a lot of options for you out there.
For sure.
All right, key takeaway. So if there is one thing that I leave you with today, is the power of the pause. And what that is just taking 3 long, deep breaths, especially when you're really triggered by someone, feeling angry, if you're hurt, or even if something really amazing and wonderful has just happened to you. Just sit with that before reacting. Someone gives you a compliment, just receive it, sit with it for 3 breaths. You're in the car and someone just cut you off. Before you react, just breathe 3 times. And you can be angry or triggered, that's natural. Just hold that feeling with the kind awareness and allow it to be there. Another thing too is that I talk about this in other situations, is that the mind is in the body. So our mind does not only exist inside our heads, it exists in our whole bodies via the nervous system and our neurons and our cells. So when we connect with these physical sensations and we allow them to grow and expand, they ultimately leave the body. So it's a healing. It's a form of healing when we actually allow things to be there in a safe space. I mean, sometimes you can't do this at a management meeting. You can't allow yourself to lose your shit and totally, break down or whatever. And you have to keep your eyes open while you're driving. So, you use good judgment, but when you're in a safe space, it is really good to allow yourself. And also if you have therapy, if you have chronic pain, if there's addiction, this is a really nice supplement. Mindfulness meditation is a very nice supplement to other types of coping mechanisms in therapy. All right, lady, questions. What do you got? You got anything for me?
What are some tips you have? So I'm one of those types of people who I recognize after the fact that maybe I should have, taken more time to think about something, or, maybe not reacted in the way that I did. Like, I have very good reflection skills, but I don't always have such great, like skills in the moment. And so what tips would you have? Is it really trying to focus on those 3 deep breaths to start out with? Like, what's the best thing to really try to like get your mind to go that direction when you're just beginning?
So 2 things. One thing is when you're in the middle of a situation that is heating up, just stop and breathe for three breaths, because it slows you down. It's like it kind of does this to you a little bit. So slowing down is what you want to do. Another thing that I would recommend is, if you're really good with the reflection stuff after the fact, sit with how you feel in that moment. Let's say you have self-judgment that you didn't handle it the way you wanted to handle it. Just be like, okay, this is what judgment feels like. Where is it coming in my body? Does my stomach hurt? Are my shoulders tense? Does it feel weird in my heart? Is my throat tight? Like, where is it showing up? And then just allow yourself to feel that and breathe and try to hold it with kind awareness. So you'll probably learn something. And when we allow ourselves to really experience situations instead of trying to control and suppress them, we will learn. Mm-hmm. And it changes our behavior.
That makes total sense. So when you are like, so for me, I've been implementing meditation into my daily routine for the last maybe 6 months. But let's kind of talk about somebody maybe who hasn't started at all yet with meditation. How much do you recommend getting started with? And then what's a good spot to build to? Like, would you recommend people meditate multiple times a day? What would be your recommendation there for how often and how many minutes?
Right. I have a couple of answers there. One is to go back to meeting yourself where you are. Okay. This is not something that you want to say, oh, this is a task. This is another freaking task that I have to do. Right. This is a gift. This is a gift that you give to yourself. Like, we brush our teeth twice a day. We eat 3 times a day. We get stressed 20 times a day. So this is a form of self-love and coping, right? And you can start with just the 3 breaths. So I encourage people to play with it, experiment, see how it makes them feel. So that's like the open-ended one. It is good to have a practice and form habits. So if you're a habit type of person, see where you can squeeze it in, and where you need it the most. And I'm a habit person. So that works for me. If I don't create a habit, it's not going to happen. So I have done it at different times in the day. Like, when I first started, I would just do it whenever I thought I had time, and I would sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Then when I had a really, really stressful full-time job, working like 50 hours a week or whatever, I would have to do it after work just so that I could come down, because I was so stressed out. Now what I do is I do it in the mornings. That's how I wake up. So I start my day like in a good headspace, and it also helps wake me up too. Like I have a clear head and I feel relaxed and grounded. So, yeah.
I love that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
No, I think that takes care of everything on my question list. And like you said earlier, if anybody is watching this video, feel free to comment below, and Heather, I'm gonna, she'll be tagged in it, so she'll get the notifications of comments that you've got questions for, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. And so my website is heathergwaltney.com. And you're going to see, so it's just my name.com. You're going to see me tagged on the Facebook page. You can access my book there, the Mindful Leadership Certification course. Just to let you know, I teach it through George Mason University. That means that you can get a continuing education credit and you get a certificate at the end because it's an accredited institution. And it's a 5-week live webinar. So anyone around the world can attend 5 weeks, 1 hour, a couple times a week. So it's pretty cool. And then I talked about that guided meditation, and I have a bunch of other freebies too. So
great. Thanks for sharing those resources with us.
Okay. What would you say is the key takeaway from this for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, a key takeaway was thinking about the wings of the bird and the kindness and the awareness, because I think those two things, I'm probably more on the awareness side. I'm a little bit heavier there, but I have a real desire to be balanced with with kindness, and I never really thought about it like that before. So I thought that was a really good takeaway. And when I sit in those moments of recognizing how can I respond with a balanced response instead of one way or the other all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's interesting because I'm a little similar. It's sometimes it's harder for me to practice the kindness, particularly towards myself. Sometimes kindness is difficult to access. So if you're struggling with accessing that kindness feeling, think about when someone has been really kind to you, or the love and care you feel for an animal that you have, a really dear friend, like that sweetness, that compassion that you feel towards that other being. What does that feel like in your body? And just try to reconnect. And if you have a hard time reconnecting, just bring up a previous experience with that animal, that person. So that helps connect with that. And then sometimes you won't be able to connect with kindness or awareness. That's just the way it is. So again, you go back to meeting yourself where you are and just allowing yourself to feel what's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. I stopped recording. Oh, wait.
Okay.